Well, hello there! Welcome to Alyssa Jean's Reviews. My name is Alyssa, and this is part one of my transition story. There will be 3 total parts. Each part will focus on a different portion of my life, and therefore a different portion of my transition process. Part 1 will focus on my early life, particularly my teenage years, and how media affected my trans identity during my teenage years. So that's the intro. Let's get started. I'll see you on the other side of this. So before I get into how the media affected my trans identity as a teen, I actually want to start from the very beginning. And by the way, when I say media, I mean television, film, radio, that kind of thing, not just news media. But anyways, let's start from the very beginning, going way back to when I first remember thinking that I was trans, and that is at age 4. And it seems like age 4 is a common age that I hear from other trans identifying people of when they first remembered that something was different about them or that they were not the gender that people were telling them they were. And I think that's because age 4 is when most of us have any memories at all. So what that means is that was with us from birth. We just don't remember prior to age 4. That's why age 4 is the first. Anyways, so my specific memory is that I was a 4-year-old. I was laying in bed at night and I was talking to myself, as I often did as a 4-year-old, and I was doing this thing that I did regularly called girl talk, and I don't remember specifically what it was all about anymore because it was something being produced by my 4-year-old brain, so it's harder for my adult brain to kind of interpret it, but I think it was something along the lines of I was pretending to be hanging out with other girls like me, and we were having girl talk. And as I was doing this on this one night, my mom walked into my room, and although what I'm sure she probably heard was beep, 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 you know, little like 4-year-old, you know, babbling to themselves kind of thing. But in my mind, I was like, oh my God, she found out. Oh my God, she heard me. And I was humiliated. And it's really interesting to me that I had already learned at age 4 to be terrified of anyone finding out. I had already learned to be ashamed of it, and I don't even remember how I learned it, so I'm not going to do media that I consumed as a 3-year-old that affected that, because I don't know. But I had already learned it, which is crazy. At age 4, I had already learned that my trans identity was something to be ashamed of. And so throughout my childhood, I just kind of lived as a boy because that's what I was told that I was. And I didn't know there was an option to be anything different. So I just did my best. And my trans identity, I kind of shoved aside and suppressed it. And it didn't really come to the surface again until after puberty, and specifically when I was 15, specifically on October 25th, 1989. And actually, it started a few months before that, March of 1989. What happened in March of 1989, you ask? Well, this happened. Dr. Beckett finds himself leaping from life to life, striving to put right what once went wrong, hoping each time that the next leap will be the leap home. Quantum Leap! If you're wondering what in the hell that was all about, there was a show called Quantum Leap that aired from 1989 through 1993. And if you're not familiar, it was a very unique time travel show that starred Scott Bakula as Dr. Sam Beckett. And what Dr. Beckett would do is he was stuck leaping from life to life, as the intro said, and he would go into someone else's body, and that person would then trade places with him and go into his body in the future and just kind of hang out and wait for him to do his thing. And what he needed to do was to correct something that went horribly wrong for that person the first time around. That's thus the striving to put right what once went wrong. And once he did that, by the end of the episode, usually about 60 minutes or so, he was able to leap away into the next body. And so what happened on October 25th, 1989 was there was a particular episode of Quantum Leap that aired called What Price Gloria. Now, this is the first time that Dr. Beckett leaps into the body of a woman. Now, also in this show, like everyone else around him sees him as whoever he's leaped into, though the audience sees Scott Bakula, obviously. But everyone else sees him as the person he leaped into, and also when he looks into the mirror, he will see that person looking back at him. So when he leaps into this woman, anytime he looked in the mirror, like you could see this Marilyn Monroe looking chick looking back at him. And I watched this episode and I thought that was the most amazing idea I have ever heard. And I just wanted it so badly. Like, I wanted to be able to quantum leap into the body of a woman. In fact, there was a very short period of time where I just fantasized about being like Dr. Beckett, except only for women. Like, leap into women's bodies just so that I could live as a woman for a little bit. But then I got rid of the quantum leap thing pretty quickly because I don't know, like, it's kind of impractical. What's the girl going to do while I'm leaping into her body to put right what once went wrong? She's going to be hanging out at my house. And, I don't know, it seems like such a hassle. Why can't I just be a woman? Like, that seems more direct. It's easier that way. Just live as a woman. So then I turned my fantasies to that. And that's when I started wearing my mom's clothing in secret all the time. I would go into her closet and try on different things, and then I would try on her makeup and all of this stuff, and I did it very, very secretly. To my surprise, they never found out. I thought they might have, but they told me recently that they never knew. But anyways, so this went on for about 3 years between ages 15 and 18. It was on and off because often I would, feel ashamed and try to stop. But ultimately, I could not stop. And meanwhile, I had absolutely no understanding of what was happening to me. Like, why did I have this strong desire to dress female, to be female? Why did I want to fantasize about quantum leaping into a woman or just flat out being a woman? Like, I had no context. I had nothing except for some misinformation. And the misinformation begins with this idea that I was a transvestite. And a transvestite is a male who wants to dress in women's clothing. And a male is defined by a person who's born with a penis. And so if they want to dress up in women's clothing, they are a transvestite. So that was what I thought I was. And transvestites were subhuman. They were mentally ill. There was something completely wrong with them. They deserved to be made fun of and mocked. And that is what I learned from the media and from people around me. And I had never heard the term transgender. I didn't know there was an option of, taking hormones or choosing not to take hormones, honestly, and transitioning to female. Like, that wasn't a thing. I never had heard of that. The only thing I knew about were transvestites and transsexuals. Now, transsexual was a male because I never even heard of female to male transitions at that time either. So it was a male defined again as a person born with a penis who decides to go to the hospital, get surgery, and change his penis into a vagina, and then he gets to be a woman. And that is what I learned. So I think about specifically a news story that I saw on one of those like nighttime new shows. Let's just call it 2020. I think it was 2020. It could have been Nightline or one of those other ones, but we'll just say it's 2020. The show, not the year. So 2020 had this, expose about this transsexual woman who, used to be a man until he went and had the surgery and changed his penis to a vagina. And they showed pictures of her as a young man I guess I should say her Navy uniform before she transitioned. And she was, this young man fighting for his country and all this stuff. And then he decided he had to be a woman. And I don't remember being like explicitly negative, but the tone was similar to that of a story that might have been about, like a man who had grown a third arm in the middle of his chest. It was like, whoa, what a freak show. Like, that's so weird, isn't it? Whoa, that's weird. Like, that was the tone of this story. So, number one, I learned that the only way for me to ever become a woman is to get this expensive surgery I was probably never ever going to be able to afford. And number two, if I did, I would be a freak. And another show that I remember watching around this same era between, ages 15 and 18, which is like 1989 through 1992 for me, there was this show called Soap. And Soap actually originally aired from 1977 to 1981, but I'm watching it here in the late 80s, early 90s as a teenager, in rerun, obviously, on Comedy Central. And Soap had a gay character, an openly gay character, played by a young Billy Crystal. And I do have to give them a little bit of credit for even having an openly gay character in the 1970s on a network television show. That's cutting edge. That was kind of unheard of at the time. By my memory, I don't think it was necessarily the best portrayal of the LGBTQ community. I'm sure it was filled with stereotyps. But hey, they had an openly gay person on a network television show, so that's something. But in the early episodes, I feel like it might even have been like the first one or two episodes of the show, Billy Crystal's openly gay character has decided that he wants to be a woman, and he dresses up as a woman with a wig and clothes, dresses, women's clothing, so I can really relate to that. He tells his family that he is going to go to the hospital and become a woman. So once again, that's the only way you can become a woman, is going to the hospital and getting the surgery. So he tells his mom this, and his mom is very upset by this. Like, he can't do that to her. Like, it's one thing to be, an openly gay male, but then to turn yourself into a woman, no, you can't do that. And eventually, she actually talks him out of it. So he decides he's not going to get the surgery. He's not going to become a woman. And for the rest of the series, he continues just to be a gay cis male. That's why I'm using he, him pronouns for this character, because apparently he wasn't really trans, according to this show. And he spent the rest of the series as a male. So once again, I have these ideas reinforced that, number one, the only way to live as anything other than a male is to go and get your penis surgically turned into a vagina. And number two, if you want to do that, your parents are probably going to be very upset by it. Nobody's going to want you to do that. You're going to be a freak. Everyone's going to hate you. Also, it's really, really expensive. So why am I going to pay all this money to do something that everyone's going to hate me for? So you may have noticed that I've been talking about the ages 15 to 18 and 1989 through 1992. So what happened at age 18 in 1992? Well, let me tell you, a little movie you may have heard of called The Crying Game. By the way, I forgot to mention Disclosure. It's the Laverne Cox documentary on Netflix, which you should definitely check out if you have not. But they also bring up The Crying Game in that documentary as well. But here, obviously, I'm just talking about how it affected me personally. And I have to say that when I look at the singular number one reason as to why it took me until age 46 to decide to transition, it's this goddamn movie. It is The Crying Game. This movie effed me up for life, or a good portion of my life anyway. And I don't know if you can blame the movie itself as much as the media reaction and the reaction of all the people around me. So this movie was said to have this big twist. Oh my God, the twist is so crazy. Your mind will be blown. Oh my God, it's the craziest thing you've ever seen. And that's what everyone was saying. So I like good twists. So I was like, yeah, I'll go see this movie. And I'm watching this film, and it is about these dudes in the IRA. Is that what they're called? Like the Irish terrorist dudes, whatever. And so for whatever reason, they kidnapped Forrest Whitaker. And Forrest Whitaker has this conversation with the main, I forget his name, the main character guy in the movie, and they develop a bond or whatever. And Forrest Whitaker is telling this guy about his girlfriend and how much he loves her and all of this stuff. And then they end up killing Forrest Whitaker, but then the main character guy decides he's going to leave the IRA. He doesn't want to kill people anymore or something. So then he goes and seeks out Forrest Whitaker's girlfriend. I think out of a sense of guilt, if I remember correctly. He goes and finds Forrest Whitaker's girlfriend and ends up falling in love with her. And I saw, this person on the screen, and immediately, within the first couple seconds, my brain goes, that's a dude. Now, of course, if I were to see that now, I would say that's a trans woman. But remember, I didn't have that terminology back then, so I would have thought that's a dude, that's a man, or something like that, because that's what I thought I was, and that's what I thought this person was as well, because that's all I knew. And I'm thinking, well, that's a dude, and that's interesting, I just keep watching the movie, he starts to fall in love with her, and yada yada, and all this stuff. And as I'm watching it, I was like, I wonder what the twist is, like everyone was making a big deal about. And then at one point it occurred to me, wait, hold on. Is the twist that this person is a trans woman? I mean, I'm just going to go ahead and use the term trans woman from now on, even though that's not what I would have thought of it as, just because I'd rather use that term, because that's the more accurate term. But just know that I wasn't using that term in my head. Anyways, trans woman. Is that the twist? I was like, if that is what the twist is, this movie's gonna suck. Because first of all, that was so obvious within 5 seconds of seeing this character on screen. And for God's sake, Boy George was doing the theme song. I mean, come on, Boy George. So it was so obvious. For one, it's not a surprise. And number two, why in the hell is everyone making a big deal about this and going, oh my God, it's so crazy. And the more I watch it, I'm like, oh my God, I think that's what the freaking twist of this movie is going to be. And that freaking sucks. And I just wanted to run out of the theater. And but I was with a friend, so I didn't. So I stayed and get to the part where this main character guy is having sex with her, and the camera pans up as he goes and looks at her genitalia, and then oh my god, it's a penis. And so the guy goes and vomits in the toilet. He vomits in the toilet because he's so disgusted by the fact that this woman has a penis. And to be fair, I think maybe later in the movie he comes to accept her, but I don't even remember. I don't remember that, if that's what happened. All I remember is here is a woman with a penis who I identify with, and this dude is vomiting in the toilet. So, okay, this is what I've learned now, is that if I were to ever attempt to live as a woman, which I didn't even think was an option, remember, but if I ever did, like dudes would vomit in the toilet and everyone would just talk about how crazy it is. What a crazy twist. That person's really a dude. Oh my God. So then after I left the film with my friend from my freshman year in college, my friend is like, yeah, man, you gotta watch out for those people. Like, they'll try to trick you, like those dudes dressing up like women, they'll try to trick you and make you have sex with them, and they'll really have a penis. You gotta watch out for them. Ooh. And, so after all of that, after this experience, what I decided was that from now on, I will never, 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 ever, 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 never, never. Never, 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 ever, ever, never, never, never let anyone ever find out that I have this secret desire to be a woman. Never, ever, ever. And actually, I'm going to take it one step further, and I'm going to get rid of this thing. Whatever it is that makes me think that I need to be a woman, I have to get rid of it. I have to eliminate it. And I'm never going to dress up in women's clothing ever, ever again. And you see how well that worked out? By the way, little side note, this idea of like re-education centers or whatever for trans or for homosexual identifying people, it's very oppressive to that person, and you can it doesn't work. You can't do that. I was trying to do it to myself, and obviously, yeah, look at me now. So it would be kind of like, if you're a cis person watching this, imagine if someone put you in a camp to try to make you think you were the opposite gender. So if you are a person with a penis who identifies as male and someone tried to say, no, you got to be a girl now, how would that work for you? The same thing with us. Doesn't work. Which I eventually found out I can't do that to myself either. It took many years of struggling to finally come to that conclusion. But that's actually more of a topic for part 2. So you should check that out as soon as it's posted on August 13th, 2021. And if you're watching it in the future, it's up there now. So check out part 2. And oh yeah, by the way, I should have mentioned this at the top, but I have a transition timeline already posted, and it covers my whole transition, my whole life. It's kind of the cliff notes of these 3-part videos that I'm doing, so you should definitely watch that too, and I'll put that in the description below. I'll put a link to it. And it's a little long for a transition timeline. It's like 15 minutes. I feel like most of them are like 5 to 8 minutes long, but you know what? When you're 23 years old, you can do a freaking 5-minute transition timeline. I'm 47. They take a little longer, so there. Anyway, please check that out. Please like this video. Please subscribe. And if you're into nerdy stuff like Star Trek, Star Wars, and the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I mostly do that on this channel, so you should check out all of that stuff. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in part 2. Bye-bye.